You have on top handwriting specimen of Subhash Chandra Bose from National Archive. You see Netaji, whenever he used to insert something somewhere, he used to put a peculiar caret mark. So you can see it here. And he pointed out, among other things, that this man used to make similar mark. So the question is to be raised: why cannot we resolve the issue of Netaji's death by having a DNA test on his remains? The answer is the government of India does not want it. Otherwise, everybody, I mean, not to speak of us, even those who support the plain cash theory, everybody, I mean, even Netaji's daughter, with whom we have a lot of differences of opinion, everybody is asking for a DNA test. We have been asking for a DNA test for such a long time. So we all of us want DNA test, but the government of India is not keen. Slight change in the result may create hue and cry. If the result is in positive, then the entire issue will be resolved. In case the result comes in negative, as to the DNA result does not tally with the biological samples connected with relatives, one can imagine the reaction of the nation. For me, the most difficult thing is always how do I start? How do we begin? It's so, in a sense, so easy to talk about this case, but also difficult. This issue has been, we have someone who's much more older than we are. This issue has been developing the past so many years now, 70 plus years. So generations have gone by talking about and wondering what really happened to Subhash Chandra Bose. So this is, in a sense, it's so easy because you need not introduce people know about it already. They already know this is Mr. Subhash Chandra Bose is dead. But then there are so many complications in this case that then again becomes so difficult for us. More so when we have very limited time. How do we start? How do we go about it? I mean, in 1.5 hours, what can I tell you about a story which has been running for 70 odd years? It's got multiple characters, so many events, 2-3 commission, committee of inquiry. Each slide requires half an hour attention. There are aspects which I would have to talk about for more than half an hour to even give you a basic inkling of that case. So tough. So with that, pressure weighing down on us, I start this presentation about Conundrum, Subhash Bose's Life After Death, which is a new book by Chandrachud Ghosh and myself, and which we, as far as we are concerned, this is the last word on the Netaji mystery. What we have been hearing for so many years, so many decades, people before us, this is the final game. This is what really happened as far as we are concerned. I will not go back. I mean, our whole approach has been to look past from the prism of present. And because so many things have happened in the last couple of years, so we need not go back in history to start the story. We will start with something which happened in at least my time, in 1990s, and which was a big turning point in this entire case, that there was a ruling by the Calcutta High Court. Somebody had moved a PIL, and then the High Court, Honorable High Court, and Justice Papa Shankar Mishra, he was no more alive now. He was the Chief Justice of the Calcutta High Court, and they gave an order to the central government to set up a commission to find out what happened to Subhash Chandra Bose. So the story, in a sense, starts in our time. So I'm not going back to the days of 1670s. Maybe I'll reflect on those, but then we start from this point. So we had a commission of inquiry set up in 1999 at the behest of the Calcutta High Court. There was an order which the central government had to follow. The official view at that point of time when the commission order came was that Subhash Chandra Bose, Netaji, had died because of plane crash, which supposedly happened soon after the end of Second World War. We all know Netaji was fighting on the Axis side. He was on the other side of the war. You had the Allied forces with the British and the Americans on one side, the Japanese and then Italians and Germans on the other. And Subhash Chandra Bose, of course, chose the other side because they were the ones who probably could help us in attaining our freedom. The British were all set to keep their reign over India. So Netaji went and joined the other side. We all know, of course, what happened. He escaped from India, and then he was in Germany, and from Germany he comes to Southeast Asia and he started this whole struggle. He was probably aware that he was waging maybe a psychological warfare, because by the time he showed up in Southeast Asia, the tide of war had turned against the Axis. So they were fighting a lost battle, so to speak. But then at the same time, he had to do whatever he had to do. There was no going back. So Netaji's death happened on 18th of August, the official view, on 18th of August 1945, which is approximately 3 days after Japanese announced they were going to surrender to the British. So this was a very crucial time. If he had not died, let's say on 18th of August, maybe next couple of days he would have been apprehended. And everybody knew if he were apprehended, he would be shot dead. So this was a time in which it happened. So this is the last picture of Subhash Chandra Bose you see on the right side. And of course, this is how the news was broken in the Hindustan Standard, the leading newspapers in paper in Calcutta in those days. And then, of course, Mukherjee Commission had its inquiry running from 1999 to 2005. And the commission's finding was that men may lie, but circumstances do not. And he found out Justice Manoj Kumar Mukherjee, who was the chairman of this commission of inquiry, very honorable, honest judge of the Supreme Court, very good track record. In case any of you has a legal background, please go and find about this man's background. Honest man, he ran his inquiry according to the rule book. And he found out that the men may lie, but circumstances do not, and all the circumstantial evidence was going against the plane crash story. And this is what he found out and he wrote in his report that the entire make-believe story of the A crash, Netaji's death therein, and his commission was engineered by the Japanese army authorities to save Subhash Bose's life, because they were his benefactor at the end of the day. And in the course of the inquiry, multiple things, because the inquiry ran for around 5-6 years. So the multiple things which happened when this inquiry happened, and one of this was that for some reason or the other, the government of India was never wanting to inquire from the Taiwanese what really had happened. So for the first time, a proper contact was established with the Taiwanese government, thanks to a little role which I played as a Hindustan Times journalist. And the Taiwanese government, the plane crash had taken place in Taipei, and the Taiwan government informed the Mukherjee Commission in the course of the inquiry. There was no plane crash for about 1.5 months in this entire area. The only plane crash which took place, had some Americans on board, some POWs, and they died. So they were really not in a position to say, of course, they denied there was any plane crash. So this theory was turned on its head before the Mukherjee Commission. Also, the commission, this theory that according to the official view, Subhash Bose died in a plane crash and his body was cremated in Taiwan. And then the remains were taken to Japan, and they were put in a place called Renkoji Temple, and these ashes were of Subhash Chandra Bose. So Justice Mukherjee applied his mind to this entire episode, and he came up with a finding that the so-called remains of Subhash Chandra Bose are actually of a Japanese soldier, Ichiro Ukura, whose death was passed off as Netaji's because they had to create a smoke screen. So they took the body of a Japanese soldier, Ichiro Ukura. And according to Justice Mukherjee's report, and we have many documents, from the British side, from the Indian side, from the Japanese, and even Taiwanese, so to speak, which talk of the same possibility that these are the remains of Ichiro Ukura. And so these are, according to Justice Mukherjee, these are the remains of Ichiro Ukura, not of Subhash Chandra Bose. All the same, he tried his level best to get a DNA test done, and for the first proper effort was made to have a test done on these remains of some humans, which are kept in Renkoji Temple. There's a little technicality. A lot of people, when they speak, they say that Netaji's ashes are lying in Japan. Well, they are lying in Japan, but the position is that they are in our custody. So our ambassador in Tokyo is in charge. So if you want to have a DNA test done, it can be done tomorrow morning. So nothing stopping us from doing so. So these are not in the custody of Japanese government. They are very much in the custody of the Indian government. Our ambassador is in charge. The physical custody has been given to the Renkoji Temple priest, who will, of course, who has pro-India feeling. His father had pro-India feeling, and so on and so forth. So Justice Mukherjee tried his level best, and he asked many experts, Indian, of course, Japanese, British, American. All of them said, look, DNA is not possible because these are burnt remains. So whoever this person was, he was cremated, in a furnace of some sort, and it is not possible to extract any DNA from a burnt body. All the same, the American expert Terry Milton, he was of the opinion that he can try and give it a shot. He said, I can try. So Terry Milton said he can try and give it a shot. He told Commission to do a mitochondrial DNA test on these remains to find out whether or not these are of Subhash Chandra Bose remains. Mitochondrial is something which comes from the mother's side. So if you have some from the mother's lineage, and which we had samples, there were samples available from Netaji's sister's side. So from mother, it goes to a daughter. There is some technical, thing about it. So medical, from mother, it goes to the daughter. So from Subhash Bose's, anybody from his sister's side would have the same thing. So these blood samples from Netaji's sister's side were available. Children of his elder sisters were there. So he said, Terry Milton, the American expert said, I can try and do a DNA test, mitochondrial, provided you first do an anthropological evaluation of these remains. And anthropological evaluation would have told you whether or not these human remains, whether or not these are Indian or Japanese in origin, in Caucasians or somebody from Africa. So you actually don't need a DNA test. Even anthropological test would tell you whose ashes these are. And so Justice Mukherjee conveyed the idea to the Ministry of External Affairs Terry Milton has agreed to do the DNA test, and all he wants is that you first run an anthropological evaluation on these remains. And that is where the government of India clammed up. So the question is to be raised, why cannot we resolve the issue of Netaji's death by having a DNA test on his remains? The answer is the government of India does not want it. Otherwise, everybody, I mean, not to speak of us, even those who support the plane crash theory, everybody, I mean, even Netaji's daughter, with whom we have a lot of differences of opinion, everybody is asking for a DNA test. We have been asking for a DNA test for such a long time. So all of us want DNA test, but the government of India is not keen. Why are they not keen? The answer lies in one of the declassified files. Now, this is a noting from 2003 when this demand was raised, again. So this was the noting made. This was the decision, of course, assessment made by the government, by our government. And I quote from the official file, of course, it reads that, moreover, slight change in the result may create hue and cry. If the result is in positive, then the entire issue will be resolved. In case the result comes in negative, as to the DNA result does not tally with the biological samples connected with relatives, one can imagine the reaction of the nation. For a country which has been, for a government which has been, asserting for last 55 years or even more than that Netaji's ashes are lying in Japan and Tokyo. This is what the response was when they were asked to do the DNA test. So you can make out for yourself that there is something terribly wrong with the government. They probably know that these are not ashes. Otherwise, I don't think so. It takes only 1 minute to do a DNA test, and as I said, the ashes are in the custody of the remains, are in the custody of the Indian governments. If they want, they can have that test done tomorrow morning. We have numerous cases in our country where even for local murder petty cases, we have undertaken DNA test or taken help from from foreign countries. This is a very well-known case of the Bhamni Devi murder case in which the American FBI was called in for help. So if this can be done for Bhamni Devi case, why not for Subhash Chandra Bose? After all, he did so much for the country. So Mukherjee Commission, think about it. There was this commission set up on High Court's order. And this commission functioned for almost 5 years. They did whatever they could. And they produced a report. And the report is given by a former Supreme Court of India judge. And the report comes, and in 2006, by the time the report is out, the government of India in Parliament rejects this report by issuing this action taken report, or so-called action taken report, without assigning any reason. The report is rejected. Just think about it. Had it been some other issue, something else, some petty local murder case, and if they had behaved in such a way, what would have happened? The biggest problem for us, the lack of support from media, at least in those days the media was not interested about this case, so they could get away with such a big thing. I will never forgive them for this. You cannot dismiss a report of a commission of inquiry headed by a former Supreme Court judge, or then the commission was set up because of a High Court order, and you reject it without giving a reason. Is it a joke or what?
So although the Mukherjee Commission was trying to find out the truth or otherwise behind the story of the plane crash, that was not the only angle that it was looking at. Of the various tasks handed over to the commission, one was also to find out that if the plane crash did not happen, which Justice Mukherjee ruled out, what actually happened to him? Where did he die? Whether he was alive? For how many years was he alive? And in a country like India, it doesn't take long to form stories. Right from 1946, or even from the end of 1945, when the story of so-called death in the plane crash came in, stories started forming, myths started forming. Netaji was cited every other month somewhere, sometime in Patna, sometime in Calcutta, sometime in Bombay, sometime in some other country. The stories kept piling up. And all these stories, not all of them, but many of them came in front of the inquiry commissions and the committees that looked into the matter. Some stories came in front of the Shahnawaz Committee in 1956. A lot of them came in front of the Commission of Inquiry led by Justice G.D. Khoshla from 1970 to 74. And a few of them came in front of Justice Mukherjee as well. Now, most of these stories were ruled out of hand by Justice Mukherjee. He could figure out that these are theories coming from crackpots and there is no merit in any of them. The problem was with one theory, with one story. A few people from Faizabad approached Justice Mukherjee, telling him about a remarkable man, an unusual story. The story of a man who never showed his face to people outside where he lived. He always lived behind a curtain. He lived in Uttar Pradesh, various places in Uttar Pradesh for a number of years, nearly 3 decades. Met with a lot of people who were former revolutionaries from Bengal, who were revolutionaries associated with the Anusilan Samiti, revolutionaries associated with Sri Sangha. These were renowned revolutionaries. Now, why were these revolutionaries going to meet all the way to Uttar Pradesh from Bengal? This unknown man who was living in the disguise of a holy man, never showed his face, talked from behind a curtain, lived, remained confined within a few rooms. And so, what was the connection? The connection became clear after the death of the man in 1985. When the room of the person was opened, of this holy man was opened, people were stunned. Nearly 7,000 items were recovered from his residence. Hundreds of books, thousands of letters, documents, airmails, stamps, cigars, binoculars, military gloves, INA uniform, glasses, exactly the type worn by Netaji Subhash Bose. People were stunned. And when they started digging, the first methodical investigation was taken up by the Northern India Patrika. And when they went back digging into the past of this man, they uncovered layer after layer of this man's history. They couldn't find out everything. They were not aware of the man's connection with the revolutionary societies of Bengal. They were not aware of the dynamics of Bengal politics. So they couldn't figure out the whole story. But they put a large number of pieces together and came to the conclusion that this man could not have been anybody else but Subhash Bose. This was in 1986. In 1986, something else also happened. At the same place where this man was living, the Ram Janambhoomi Babri Masjid order came in. And the issue was swept away. This issue was building up. The Ram Janambhoomi Babri Masjid issue totally covered this up. And it was forgotten. Forgotten for nearly 15 more years. And then it came up. Justice Mukherjee took a lot of interest. He went to Faizabad, looked into the belongings of the holy man, and he himself was overwhelmed. He found a few samples of teeth also, 7. And Anuj was actually the person who found the 7 teeth kept in a matchbox and handed it over to Justice Mukherjee. DNA test was run on those teeth samples. Handwriting test was done on the writing samples of the holy man compared with Netaji's handwritings. And again, something strange happened. Justice Mukherjee sent the DNA samples to be tested in 2 government labs. And the handwriting samples were sent to 2 government experts and another independent expert. While the independent expert ran thorough, huge amount of tests and came to the conclusion that they were the handwriting of the same person, the government labs said that the DNA of the teeth found in Faizabad do not match with the DNA of Netaji's family, and the handwriting samples don't match. Justice Mukherjee was stuck. So he had to rule, he was forced to rule that this person could not have been Netaji. But he also could not ignore the sheer volume of circumstantial evidence that had come his way. So he said there is no reason not to rely upon the evidence that have come from those who knew Netaji, who had met this person who was given the moniker Gumnami Baba by the press later. There is no reason to disbelieve them. We are talking about stalwarts of the Bengal revolutionary movement. We are talking about people like Leela Ray. We are talking about people like Pavitra Mohan Roy, who was Netaji's intelligence officer. Pavitra Mohan Roy was sent from Southeast Asia, handpicked by Netaji to come to India and run his covert operations in 1944. He was arrested later, he was sentenced to death, and at the fag end of the Second World War, he was released. He was lucky not to have been hanged. So we're talking about several other names which you might not be familiar with, but they are big names in Bengal revolutionary past. He found that there is no reason not to disbelieve or not to believe them. But his hands were tied. Probably he couldn't live with that. So, about 5 years later, 5 years after his report was out, and he came out with the judgment that he couldn't accept that Gumnami Baba and Netaji were the same person, he happened to talk to a few people, give an interview. And while the camera was rolling and his interview was over, he just kept talking.
In 2006, Amlan Ghosh, a documentary filmmaker, caught this shocking confession on camera.
Believe me, আমাকে যদি পার্সোনালি বলেন এটা কিন্তু নট উই কোর্টে বলবেন না কাউকে I am 100% sure that উনি I am 100% sure that উনি আমাদের তো একটা সেন্সিবল ভিউ নিতে হবে এটাই হচ্ছে তার ব্যাপারে আমি কিন্তু 100% sure.
So the camera was on and we were discussing many things, of course only about Netaji and his mysterious disappearance, and especially about his possible stay in Faizabad.
Caught on the wrong end of the debate, Justice Mukherjee's personal views has raised an uncomfortable question. Could the man in Faizabad be Subhash Chandra Bose?
So he had to take a sensible view. His hands were tied, as I said. Otherwise, he was 100% sure. But that was his unofficial acknowledgement. It had no legal value. We could not take it forward. We could not take it to the court, and he hadn't written it in his report. And the report anyway was rejected by the government. So we were in a fix. While we carried on with our mission to get documents declassified and succeeded to some extent, to a great extent in fact, by 2010 we had got the first lot of declassification done, thousands of documents through the UP government. This case took a positive turn in 2013 when the Allahabad High Court took up an age-old case and passed a verdict. The Allahabad High Court, the Lucknow bench of the Allahabad High Court looked into the case and said, well, this is something remarkable. What we need to do is, first of all, to preserve all those more than 7,000 items recovered from his residence, from Gumnami Baba's residence in Faizabad, and possibly transfer them into a museum. These items need to be preserved for the posterity. Number one. Number two, the court said that the government should immediately set up a commission of inquiry to find out and establish without any doubt the identity of this man. Now, the remarkable thing about this court case is that it was filed way back in 1986 by none other than Netaji's own niece, Netaji's elder brother's daughter, Lalita Bose. Lalita Bose, getting to hear about Gumnami Baba's story, she went down to Lucknow, to Faizabad. She ran from pillar to post, met the chief minister, met the district administration, tried her best to get the case resolved, but there was no response. There was a stony silence all over. Everybody refused to cooperate. She had no choice. She had no option other than approaching the court. She approached the court, asking for a resolution, asking for the identity of the man to be determined and his items to be preserved. Within one day, the court gave the order. And from 1986 till 2013, when the court heard the case, or the items were still lying in the treasury. So the courts asked the government The government, as usual, takes time to move. Sometimes you can never figure out whether it wants to do anything or not. So things were not moving. So we approached the UP government. We went and met after 3 years. When after 3 years nothing had happened, we went and met the then Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav. He gave us a patient hearing. He spent nearly 2 hours with us and heard everything and took quite a bit of personal interest into it. So he passed the order of setting up the museum. He sanctioned the amount needed for the museum in his next budget and also ordered setting up of the inquiry committee. But the way things stand today is no better. Things haven't moved really. The museum is set up. A few items have been selected and put up in the museum. The museum is ready. But since 2016, this is 2019, half of it is gone. The museum is still not open for public viewing. And the commission which was set up, a one-man judicial commission, it just called for depositions, it called for affidavits, collected whoever went to the commission and submitted their affidavits, made a compilation of them and submitted some report to the government. Never conducted any inquiry or investigation of its own. The whole story was in front of the commission. We gave the commission all the background that it required. All it needed was the intent. It had everything right there in Lucknow under the control of the state administration. If it had wanted, it could have solved the case within 1 year. It didn't want to, and it didn't happen. The commission ran for 1.5 years, but the report is also not out. So usually the law is that within 6 months of submission of a commission's report, the report has to be tabled. The report is still not tabled. We went and met the subsequent Chief Minister, Yogi Adityanath. He promised to cooperate, but again, we are still waiting. These were some of the items which were recovered from the residence of Gumnami Baba. As you can see, most of these items, the books you see, most of them are related either to the freedom struggle or to the Second World War or to India's foreign policy, India's wars after 1945. On the right hand side of the screen, if you look, you will find pictures of Netaji's parents. This man meticulously collected pictures of Netaji's parents. Now, who would do that? He asked his associates to collect family pictures and send them to him. He would frame them, keep them with him, worship them, do puja regularly. These are items, the glasses you can see, the spectacles, these are exactly as what Netaji used to wear. The wristwatches, the pipes, the smoking pipes, these are all pointing to one person. Anybody looking at this, and now although the museum is not open, we have had the good fortune to go and see the museum. And if you look at the items preserved in the museum, huge maps by the Survey of India, a person who is really concerned about logistics, about military movement, about India's coastal security, about border security, only that kind of person would be studying that kind of maps. Nobody else. Not some 4-second Baba. There are hundreds and thousands of Babas who live here and there everywhere. This is not some godforsaken reclusive Baba we are talking about. This is just a blow up of these items. So we understood in 2016 that things are not going to move the way we want. So we took it upon ourselves. Anuj and I had a chat and we decided that whatever information that we have been able to collect through our investigation of nearly 15 years, we will put that out through a book. We will challenge the story given out by the government by the negative evidences that are standing on the way of reaching a conclusion, and if possible, we will conduct our own forensic investigation. That was a tall order, unthinkable. We are men with very, very modest means, but we took up the challenge and we started on the way. Now, the book is out. Hopefully, many of you will read it. It, for the first time, establishes without any doubt the identity of who Gumnami Baba was and presents the full story, of which only bits and pieces were known till now. I mean, to present the story in very brief manner, the story erupted in 1985. As I said, the Northern Indian Patrika published a series of investigative articles and reached the conclusion that this person was none other than Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. But what we discovered once we started getting access to classified files, once we started getting them declassified, right from 2007, is that this story was known to the government of India from 1962. How? 1962, one person goes to Nimsa for recovering his health. He was on a tour. This person happened to be an old revolutionary from Kolkata with connections to the Bose family. He meets a holy man, exactly as the description is, who lives in a temple, doesn't show his face to anybody, barely talks to anyone, and whenever he talks across the curtain. He meets this guy and tells him about his past background, about his revolutionary past, about politics in Bengal, what happened that led to the partition, and things that nobody else could have known other than Bose. Our man comes back, rushed back to Kolkata, and tells the story to his revolutionary group. They get together and reach him. Even that is not easy. That was not easy. It took a lot of time, a few months, to actually get access to him, to be able to just talk to him. Once the connection was established, that connection continued till 1985, till this man was alive. The man kept moving. First, we get to know of his existence in Mainpuri. From Mainpuri, he moves to Lucknow. In Lucknow, he was proposed a security cordon by the chief minister and his associates. The chief minister at the time was Dr. Sampurnanand, known to be kind of anti-Nehru group within the Congress. So Dr. Sampurnanand, Dr. Kamalapati Tripathi, all these people were in touch with him at that time. From Lucknow, he again moves away to Nimsar. From Nimsar, he comes back to Ayodhya, from Ayodhya to Basti, from Basti to Faizabad. So everywhere he goes, at the slightest chance of his identity being unmasked, at the cover of the night, he leaves that place, shifts to another place at a moment's notice. And everywhere he is helped by his revolutionary associates. From the notes that we recovered, we were able to get access to, we find that this man, a holy man living somewhere in remote corner of the country, is surprisingly informed about what is going on in world politics. Not informed as in what is published in newspaper. He is informed about things that are never published in newspapers or magazines or journals. He knows what happened in a cabinet meeting a few days ago. He is describing how Nehru and Shyama Prasad Mukherjee fought over the Liaquat Pact and how they came nearly to blows. This account comes out many years later in public. This is not supposed to be known by some recluse. He knows what is being discussed between the heads of state, between the premier of Soviet Union with the president of Egypt. He's giving it out to his closest associates. He is talking about what happened during the Indochina War, how he had to intervene. He is talking about strategy during the 1965 war. He is talking strategy about 1971 war. And strategy as not as what happened and his post analysis, he is leaving hints as to what's going to happen. So here we have a remarkable person. As I said, he was in touch with very few select top politicians of the country of the day. and already told you about nearly 7,000 items that have been recovered. So this, in short, is the story of the enigma, Gumnami Baba. And this is the person whom we followed through documents, through personal accounts, eyewitness accounts, and every possible bit and piece of evidence that we could lay our hands on for 15 years, and finally reached the conclusion.
So among other many important people who were in contact with this person, Guru Golwalkar ji was a person because of whom the second Sarsang Chala of RSS, because of whom you can say the BJP was able to form a government for, under Mr. Vajpayee, and of course now the present government. You cannot compare, of course, Dr. Hedgewar, but he was the man who built up the Sangh and he brought it to such a level. So this was, for example, one of the later discovered among the belongings of Bhagwanji or Gumnami Baba as he is known now. And the manner in which, because I showed this letter to somebody who was a direct disciple of Guruji, he said this is his handwriting, there is no dispute about it. In fact, I tried to find out whether there was any correspondence there in the Sangh headquarters. So I was given to understand that during emergency they destroyed a lot of sensitive papers, so there's nothing left. Anyhow, see the manner of writing, the way he's addressing and talking about him, ki aapke charnon mein, Shatash Pranam, 100 times I bow before you, and he's literally taking orders from this man. And this is happening at a time when Golwalkar ji was having, I believe, cancer. He was not well. He died a few months after this letter was written. And when he died, this recluse Gumnami Baba, as we know him now, he said very clearly that no one will ever know or understand what a loss this has been for me personally, because whatever the work I am doing for the motherland, he has been a great help to me. And among other things, I was wondering, because Ratanji is here. Sir, he mentioned, to bring it to your notice, because you mentioned something like in your book also, he mentioned that I conveyed to Lal Bahadur Shastri through certain means, don't go to Tashkent. It's a trap. And somehow you are saying that in your book you're writing that Guruji tried to convey to Shastriji, don't go to Tashkent. So I do see some kind of, if I want to connect the dots. So this is how things are. But I also find very amusing in some places, because many people I meet, even in Sangh, they say, no, we have never heard, we are not aware of it. And probably they have no interest in this case. But at the same time, at least Sudarshanji was very vocal about it. So many people in the Sangh, they don't want to talk about it today. They are probably more interested in some members of Netaji's family who are die-hard communists all their lives. But it is a matter of, public knowledge that Sudarshanji was very vocal about it within the, Sangh hierarchies to talk about it. But since people have been asking me, what proof do you have? I thought, let me get a video back and show it to you. Okay, this is what Sudarshanji had to say.
और उसके बाद 1954 में भारत आ गए, और भारत में अयोध्या के आसपास बिजनौर इत्यादि क्षेत्र के अंदर वो गुमनामी बाबा के नाते से रहे, तो कोई नहीं देख सकता था उनको.
So if this is all happening, and if so many people are aware of this person, and he's meeting chief ministers and whatnot, and so many things happening, we have been hearing so many things about him. People from intelligence coming, people from the administration coming, the SPOs coming, the SHOs coming, and the ministers. I know somebody has even taken over Pranab Mukherjee, that he also visited him, and so on and so forth. So was not government aware? What was the intelligence machinery doing? If this was happening, if you have a Baba living in India today, let's say in this place called Basti, where he was living in 60s, suppose you have a news in the local police station that he subscribed to Time magazine. The IB will have a raid in the evening. Which Baba subscribed Time magazine in Basti? And you're talking about 1960s, a person is reading, Reader's Digest, Time magazine, all newspapers, organizer to, Indian Express, and all kind of, he has Charles Dickens, the entire collection he's ordering, P.G. Woodhouse, the entire collection he's going through. So these sort of things don't happen to Babas in UP. So government must have been aware. Of course, he cannot escape the radar. Well, he did not. What we can show, of course, indirectly, this is a story which made Netaji a big story. 2015, India Today cover story that Subhash Chandra Bose was being followed by the government of India. So the story which came out was on the lines his family was being chased. No, it's not the family. In fact, it was happening all over the country. They were chasing each and every one who was linked to Subhash Chandra Bose, even journalists who were taking interest in him. So the reason, which was very clear, the entire media reported, And this is we're all showing all from the mainstream newspapers. These are not tabloids. These are major mainstream newspapers. India Today. Congress was scared of Bose's return. Why would they be scared of a man who died in 1945? And this is what the BJP in those days openly said. The M. J. Akbar was the BJP spokesperson. There was only one reasonable explanation for all this long surveillance. The government was not sure whether Bose was dead and thought if he were alive, he would be in some form of communication with his family in Calcutta. So this was the reason why the snooping, was happening for so many years, so many decades. The same assessment was made by the Chief Minister of West Bengal, when she made no bones about it. He might have been alive. That's why he was being chased. So if that is that, then we come back to the Justice Mukherjee Commission of Inquiry, about which Chandraju told you about, is that there was some forensic tests were conducted there. And these were the handwriting test and the DNA test. Now the DNA test, of course, this is pure science. I mean, you would say, my God, this is a story in front of you that Gumnami Baba is not Netaji. It is CFSL extensive report. Why should we even question it? Because it's pure science. Why should we even question it? It doesn't stand to reason. If you have a DNA report in favor or against something, I mean, you cannot question it. It's pure science. But we tend to forget, more than science, there's something else which is all the more powerful. And these are not my words. This is Times of India. India among most corrupt countries. Say Mr. Advani, IBN Live, Walmart flags India, China as corrupt nations. India fourth most corrupt nation survey. We all know that you have to give people money and they'll give you whatever you like. We all have this Aadhaar card. Somebody probably gave money and he got Aadhaar card in the name of Lord Hanuman also. Somebody, I think, if I'm not wrong, I read somebody, they even issued a certificate, driving license for President Barack Obama. It has happened in the case of DNA also, by the way. There's no science. It's all political science, the mother of all sciences. Paul Wells was a British national kidnapped in Jammu and Kashmir. Some remains were found. A DNA test was done by the CFSL Calcutta. They said that the remains are of Mr. Paul Wells's. Subsequently, the same remains were tested by the British in London. They said the test is not his. So if I offer to you both the reports, one report given by the British side, the other one given by the Indian side, which one would you believe? I don't think anybody is going to believe the Indian report. That's why every time there's a controversy in our country, there's any forensic test involved, we always run to the Western countries. Shashi Tharoor's case, even the Viceroy sample, everything, all tests happen in London. Why not in Delhi? We have the best. Because everybody's aware it's not very difficult to change reports in our country. It's happened, recently, the Delhi High Court, now this is mind to Delhi, the capital of India. Delhi High Court has actually ordered a CBI inquiry because in the Delhi forensic lab, they take money and they change DNA reports. So the inquiry is ongoing. So this is the case of the forensic lab in our country. You can get the reports changed. There's no big deal about it. Concerning the Gumnami Baba case, we have some clear clues. So I will go through them quickly. They were as earlier said, there were 7 teeth located in Faizabad. The assumption was that these teeth were of Gumnami Baba's, and these were given for testing to first CDFD Hyderabad. Now CD Hyderabad, gave this report and it was conclusive. They said we tried to extract some DNA out of these teeth, but we couldn't. So we tried the 2 teeth and nothing came out. So the report is inconclusive. In the meanwhile, I know because I was following the journalist, there was a telephone call, and they said that the DNA has matched. But when the report was given, it said inconclusive. So we ran this report through an expert who's currently in, Stanford University in America. And he said, this is very strange. If they had 7 teeth and they're claiming they tried to extract DNA from 2 teeth, but they couldn't get more, you had the 5 more samples available to you. So his assessment is that the test was most likely politically conjugated to truncate his normal interference, which he can't make out. So there's something wrong with the DNA report. Now I link it to another case which happened recently, the Arushi Talwar case, or Hemraj murder, Arushi Talwar murder case. The Allahabad High Court in his judgment has indicted the same CDFD and the same expert, Mr. Prasad. They produced a report initially saying that there was some pillow located in some place and there was DNA of Hemraj on that pillow. Afterwards, they changed that report. He said, no, there's some typographical error involved. See, the court in its orders is saying that the report was changed at the behest of the CBI. So if you can do such tinkering with reports at the behest of the CBI, we are talking about Subhash Chandra Bose here. There are going to be huge political ramification of this case. And then we have very interesting case whereby, in other countries, especially in the West, you do a DNA test today and the report comes after 6 months. But in India, there was a marvel of science that before conducting DNA test, you had the report out.
So the first clue that we got that there is something wrong with the DNA tests is from Justice Mukherjee himself. And this happened much before his words were caught inadvertently in the camera. When Anuj and I met separately with him, and to both of us and to people who have met him subsequently, he doesn't hide the fact that he was told that there was a DNA match and later the results were changed. So he is very clear. He is sending a message that there is something wrong. But he won't tell us what to do. We asked for his help, but he refused because he was a judge. He presided over the commission, and now he cannot go back and change his stance and act against the commission over which he presided. So we had to do what we had to do. Now, the first evidence that comes to us was a shocker. Anand Bazar Patrika is the leading Bengali newspaper in the country. In December 2003, in the center page, it published this news item prominently. It says, among other things, that the government has tested the DNA samples of the teeth and they have not matched. This is December 2003. Till then, only the CDFD results were, tests were conducted, and those were inconclusive. There was no question of matching or not matching. Inconclusive. Inconclusive does not mean it matched or it did not match. We didn't know. That's what inconclusive means. That the DNA samples have not matched was known after 6 months. In June 2004, when Justice Mukherjee opened the confidential reports from CFSL. Now the big question is, how did Anand Bazar Patrika know about it 6 months ahead of time? We have come with three possibilities. One, Anand Bazar Patrika reporters are capable of doing time travel. So they went 6 months ahead, found out what is going to be the results and published it. Second, they are holders of some psychic powers. They know what's going to happen in future. They can sit in the desk and know. And the third, if you don't like any of these options, is that a fraud was committed. Now you have to choose the most logical and scientific option. For us, the most logical and scientific option is that a fraud was committed. There can't be any other option. Now, knowing this, we approached the CFSL. We asked for the details. What details? Now, when DNA analysis is done, all these are automated. I mean, DNA are not like rice grains that you sit and compare and take photographs. And DNA is automated process, DNA analysis. The sequence is analyzed, they're compared. So, in the process, when the DNA sequencing is done, there is a chart, automated machine-generated chart that comes out. It's called electropherogram. The analysis is done on the basis of that electropherogram. It's like any other. Say, if you doubt that there is some problem in your body, you want to get some blood test done, there will be a blood test report. If you want to get an X-ray done, there is an X-ray report. With those reports, you go to the doctor interprets those reports and tells you what's wrong with you. If you're not happy with the doctor, you take the same reports, go to another doctor to get a second opinion. So we asked for this electropherogram. We told us, you give us the electropherogram, let us get it checked through other experts. They said, we can't give you. I said, why? Because this is confidential, this belongs to third party, and this cannot be shared. Now, what is confidential about a person who is some recluse, some Baba, whose identity is also not known? He is definitely not Subhash Bose, as you have already told. What is the confidential? Whose confidentiality is it? Confidentiality of a person whose identity is not known? I mean, does that sound fantastic? We asked again, please give us. We said, no, we cannot. So it's clear that they are trying to suppress that information. Without electropherogram, this result cannot be verified. Now, here's the fun part. There are a lot of people who are vociferously shouting in favor of the DNA test results given out by the CFSL. For instance, the family members of Netaji, the current generation family members, they're saying, no, it's scientifically proved that DNA results are there, so Gumnami Baba cannot be Netaji. There are some other experts also, people for whom we have high regards, like General G.D. Bakshi. We don't always agree with him, but we have high regards for him. Now, he is also forwarding this argument that since the DNA have not matched, we cannot accept. Now, we would ask them definitely then that please get us the electrophotogram. Get it attested that the electrophotogram has been correctly interpreted by CFSL, and get it verified by another expert, a second expert, an independent expert. We would like to see that. And unless that can be done, this report does not stand. This cannot be accepted. This is fraud. So these two angles put together completely destroys the sole scientific basis on which Justice Mukherjee had to reject the identity of Gumnami Baba. So this is the copy of the electrophotogram, the RTI which we had filed, and this is their response. The information pertains to third party and confidential in nature. Of confidential because it belongs to somebody, we do not know who.
The other reason why the Commission of Inquiry could not reach a conclusion about, of course, this man's identity was that they were handwriting experts' opinion which went against him. So essentially, there were two different handwriting experts, rather three of them were given. And the thing about the handwriting experts' opinion, they give you reasons why I am giving this this verdict, so to speak. So you go to an expert, so he will analyze your handwriting, and then he'll give you in writing, he'll make a case. Okay, this is how this handwriting is matching, and this is how the handwriting is not matching. So the first report was given by the central government expert, and this is under Ministry of Home Affairs, which was indicted by the Mukherjee Commission's report for not cooperating with it, by the way. And they gave around 24 instances. I think it's not more than 1.5 page, maybe 1 page, if not more than that. So they gave 24 instances. Look, there are certain alphabets which are not matching with Subhash Chandra Bose, so this man is not Netaji. The state government handwriting expert report given by Dr. Mandal, who I believe is right now either number 1 or 2 there, was a complete joke. He assigns no reason whatsoever for making his conclusion that this man is not Subhash Chandra Bose. You are supposed to give reasons. I mean, anybody who has experience of law here, when you give a report, an handwriting expert has to give a reason. Why does he think that this report is correct or not? The independent expert, on the other hand, made a very detailed, case, and his report was supported by 460 large-size pictures. This huge, and these pictures, all the alphabets in English and Bengali, all matching. So you compare 24 instances in 1.5 page, and these are 460 images. They were carried in boxes before the commission. And he made a most detailed case that this person handwriting in both English and Bengali are Subhash Bose's handwriting. And this was Mr. B. Lal Kapoor's no more Lifetime Achievement Award for Forensic Sciences in 87th Indian Science Congress in 2000. He was a top government man before retiring. He was a boss of the people who had given the report, former boss of theirs. And among other things in the report, he wrote this, that there is such a faithful reproduction of some peculiarities that even a gap of time to the extent of decades cannot hide them. You can barely make out who's Subhash Chandra Bose and who's Gumnami Baba. This was one instance which we particularly highlighted to me. You have on top handwriting specimen of Subhash Chandra Bose from National Archive. You see Netaji, whenever he used to insert something somewhere, he used to put a peculiar caret mark. So you can see it here. And he pointed out, among other things, that this man used to make similar mark. So there are multiple. This is a very, very scientific process. The whole thing is done. All the same, when we got to work on this issue once more and together, and then we thought, look, DNA we cannot have it done again because the teeth must have been contaminated, and we did not have teeth with us. So, but we did have a lot of handwriting samples. He said, ideally we would have gone to some other country and get an independent DNA test done. If we had the electropherogram, we would have sent to America and get it tested once more, because I don't trust people in this country. We don't trust them. But we could try and do a handwriting test. So we sought help from outside, and these two individuals, Deepak Nijavanji and Abhishek Bose, both Indian Americans, they came out with the help and they offered to locate some good experts, and they made their own search and came out with the name of Kurt Badgett, who's a leading expert of handwriting in America. Very experienced man, 40 years, 5,000 plus cases. He has deposed before, all courts of law and across American states, 50 of them, and the Washington DC area. He has been on television. He was part of very famous television show, CSI, Crime Scene Investigation. He's been on all TV channels. And he has been trained. He has a US Army background. The good thing about him, he was not told whose handwriting samples were being given to him for testing. He did not even know who's Anush Chandrachud Ghosh. So it was Deepak Nijavan and Abhishek Bose approached him, not Deepak ji approached him. Our name came in the picture much later on. And we supplied him some samples of Subhash Bose's handwriting from the Netaji Research Bureau and some samples of Bhagwanji Gumnami Baba. This is, for example, a 1963 letter which Gumnami Baba so-called wrote to Pavitra Mohan Roy. So this was one of the samples given to the expert. What it reads is very interesting. He's talking about his past and he's recalling what had happened when he left India. He's talking about, he's looking back, he's calling him in second person. He has no rancor for Bapu. And the Bapu and Congress thought otherwise. Your dead man has no rancor because Bapu at last turned a bold face and preached fighting for freedom and honor. And because hearing and becoming stimulated and emboldened by the radio exhaustion of your dead man, that means myself. Your dead man means me and in my past. He stoutly opposed partition, and during the last fateful meeting, he wept like a child before them. So this is the handwriting sample. I'm just reading a part of it. So this is we provided to Kurt Badgett for match or no match with Subhash Chandra Bose's handwriting. But Mr. Badgett was not aware this is concerned Subhash Chandra Bose, and he was obviously not aware of what Gumnami Baba is, or he is not even aware of what Anush Dhar and Chandrachud Ghosh, who we are. He was only concerned with two samples given to him by certain Deepak Nijavan sitting in Kentucky. And then he tried his best. He has given a very detailed report, 59, 60 pages. He followed the same method which the American FBI follows. So there's a peer review. The report is checked by another expert. So he did everything which the Indian expert did not do. I would like in the near future, somebody should go to Mr. Mandal in Calcutta. Put some television crew should go to him and ask him question. You gave this report without assigning any reason. Now your grandfather in America has given this report in detail. Now tell me, what do I do with you? Under whose instruction did you pass this give this report? This is a conspiracy. Mr. Mandal has to explain. So this was a report given by Kurt Badgett. He said that based on a significant number of similarities and identifiable handwriting characteristics among the questioned handwriting, it is my professional expert opinion that the same person authored the handwriting. It is the same person writing, and he says very clearly that I am willing to depose before any court of law, because that's how reports are given. He will defend his report in a court because that's he's been doing all his life. So this takes away this proof. If we had access to the electropherogram, we would have the similar report from America. Because all these labs being run by the government here, they are going to give you exactly the same story which government wants them to give.
So summing up what we have in favor of the plane crash story, which has been championed by the government of India from 1945, and what we have now today in 2019. So we just compare. And going through all the intelligence reports, all the Commission of Inquiry reports which upheld the story of Netaji's death in 1945 in the plane crash, we find the source here in one letter by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru written in 1962. Netaji's elder brother Suresh Chandra Bose asked him that if you are so convinced about my brother's death, give me the proof. I would like to see the proof. So Panditji wrote back to him, you asked me to send you proof of death of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. I cannot send you any precise and direct proof. It's clear. But all the circumstantial evidence that has been produced, which has been referred to in the inquiry committee's report, has convinced us. So his conviction is based on only circumstantial evidence. And since Panditji wrote down the rule that he is convinced by circumstantial evidence, subsequent Indian governments, bureaucracy, and judicial commissions, they have followed the same path. Nobody has deviated. On the contrary, here in the Gumnami Baba story, now we have direct forensic evidence which contradicts the plane crash story. We have oral evidence, we have documentary evidence. In essence, we have all kinds of evidence that is required to establish a case which the story of plane crash does not have, never had. So, Pandit Nehru's 1962 story can continue in the government circles, but now it stands to be challenged, and we do plan to approach the court with all the evidence that we have been able to gather. Now, this story is very complicated and very big. In the book, which is about 860 pages, only one question takes up more than 200 pages, and that question is something that logically follows. That if the so-called Gumnami Baba was Netaji, why didn't he come out? Can you even imagine a man as courageous, as bold, a world revolutionary who took on the British Empire, who took on the Congress leadership, moved from one continent to another without any resources, built up armies from the ground, challenged the British Empire? Will that man keep sitting, hiding in some obscure corner, obscure town in Uttar Pradesh? Is it even conceivable? It's not. So we have to find the answers. I will not go into the details because that will take another couple of hours, but just touch upon the possibilities. And these possibilities, these theories come from Gumnami Baba, or Bhagwanji as his followers and associates used to address him. His own writings, his letters. We have scrutinized the documents that were available, and we found these possibilities. The first possibility that he talked about was that his coming out was not in the interest of India, that India would become the center of Third World War, possibly. He indicated that he was a war criminal. He was still a war criminal in the records of the Allied powers. That's one big chunk of evidence there. Now, the Indian government has always denied the war criminal angle. They have said that there is no record. They have talked to foreign governments. The British government, the American government have always told our government that his name is not on the records. Pandit Nehru, starting from Pandit Nehru till our present day governments, everybody has said that it is not possible that his name is there as a war criminal. And even if he was sometime treated as war criminal, we would not give him up. There's a sort of a stalemate there until we started research on this book. We found a file from our National Archives, a file of 1949, vintage 1951, sorry. A question was 55, sorry. A question was asked in the Lok Sabha about the status of Netaji as a war criminal. And the query was pushed back to MEA, Ministry of External Affairs, and Prime Minister's office. Files go round and round. In one of those files, we found a noting by Panditji's biographer, Sarvapalli Gopal, son of Pandit Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. All files related to this issue about Subhas Bose have been destroyed in 1949. 49. So, what are we talking about? Till now, we knew that destruction of Netaji's related files started in 1972 during the Indira Gandhi regime. Now we discover that destruction of Netaji related files actually started in 1949 during Panditji's regime, when India was not even a republic. It was still a dominion. So what is being hidden? What don't we know? What are we not told about? What is all this secrecy about? This needs to come forward. It's an issue that needs to be taken up and debated, and which we will. But this is only one angle. The other angle of why he didn't want to come out, or why he chose not to step out, was that he was extremely spiritually inclined, and he actually formally took sannyas. He didn't want to come back to politics or to a family life or to social life. Whatever he did, whatever his involvement with politics was, he was detached. He didn't want to come out and claim power for himself. He remained on the sidelines, guided, talked to people, whether they listened to him or not. In Shastriji's case, as Anuj referred to, that he had advised that call all the parties to Delhi. Don't go to Tashkent. That was his instruction. There were many other. His involvement in many other events. Plenty of evidences are there. But he didn't want to come out and claim power for himself. He didn't want to become the prime minister or the president of the country. He had taken the path of sannyas. That's another angle, another possibility. The third possibility is that he was so disgusted with Indian politics, and he wrote that Indian politics, it stinks. All we have are petty politicians. India lacks statesmen. Statesmen are a rarity in the world, but India doesn't have even one. It stinks. He was completely disgusted with the political scenario. But were this all? Or was there something else? We started looking. Are we missing out on anything? Obviously, it was clear. I mean, he had gone through some change. His personality had changed. His ideology had undergone a lot of transformation. In his own words, I have undergone metamorphosis. Don't try to judge me at present through what you know of me in the past. I have undergone metamorphosis. What we found out while looking for the unknown angle were some anomalies. And those are heartbreaking. We found very basic mistakes. Basic mistakes in writing, in syntax, in grammar. Now, Netaji was a top ranker in ICS in 1921. He was the first in English composition. A person like that does not make basic grammatical mistakes. A person like that does not make spelling mistakes. Even more, he was making mistakes about referring back to his past life. He was making mistakes about the year of his mother's death. He was making mistakes about his horoscope, his birth chart. There were many other instances. So when we started putting those things together, we found that, well, we are looking at a person whose three distinct personality traits are visible, and those three distinct personality traits of being a political superman who is moving around the world, controlling things or doing a lot of things for India, a spiritual, high-level spiritual person who has reached the level of probably a Maharshi, and he was also in a very dire state. So these three things don't gel. And he was making basic mistakes in writing, in talking, in referring back to past. He was showing signs of megalomania. He was showing signs of grandeurs of delusion. One of the things he said that Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed because the Allied powers wanted to destroy me. They wanted to kill me. We went through all the records. All records are available now, but there is no sign of that. There is no evidence available. He claimed his involvement in the Vietnam War. We asked the US Department of Defense, we asked the other departments of the US government about records availability. Nothing. His name does not feature anywhere. So, was he imagining things? Or at least partly? Could there have been something wrong? Could something have gone wrong? So we tried tracing back. I mean, once he escaped the Southeast Asian War Theatre, he did go to the Soviet Russia. He did go to Soviet Union. And when one of his associates later asked him that, how did they treat you? He said they didn't treat him like we treat our son-in-laws in our country. From other letters, we find that he was imprisoned and tortured
In Russia.
in Russia, in Soviet Union. Could that have led to trauma-related problems, psychological problems? And if they did, he was acutely aware of it. And that would certainly be a case which would stop him, a person acutely aware and sensitive of his image, not to step out. Although he might have had all other powers, supremely talented person, all other heightened powers, in front of him people are like dwarfs, but even then he would not step out because it's curtailing his normal flow of operation. There are indicators. So we try to look for verifications if anybody else could talk about this or if we could find some support about this. Now, this is what we found. In 1970, Netaji's wife, Emily Schenkel, told Netaji's grandnephew, Surya Kumar Bose, who lives in Germany, that she had heard from a German historian that Netaji was imprisoned in Russian prison, was being tortured, being poisoned, and he was slowly losing his senses. This is what she had heard.
नेताजी सुभाष चंद्र बोस के रिश्तेदार सूर्या बोस का कहना है कि नेताजी की पत्नी मरते दम तक यही मानती रही। जब भी इनके परिवार के लोग जर्मनी में उनसे मिलने जाते, वो नेताजी की मौत की मिस्ट्री से जुड़े कई खुलासे करती थी।
She added that in early 1950, a German journalist, Raimund Schnabel, who used to live after DDR was set up in the eastern part of Germany. Now, Raimund Schnabel told her that according to his KGB sources, he had heard that Subhash Bose was in Russia. He was in a concentration camp and he was being slowly poisoned and he was gradually losing his mind. This was a great shock to my grand-aunt.
नेताजी
So this is where we found the possibility of the unknown angle. And it's very, very plausible.
Panditji's letter, which he referred to, he showed you just now that Panditji had written a letter that there is no direct and precise evidence that Subhash Bose died in a plane crash. He gave another reasoning why the plane crash theory is accurate. He said, if he is alive, why is he not coming out? So that is also one of the reasoning which government of India has been giving all the while, directly and indirectly. If he was alive, then why did not he come back alive? Now, there also, of course, one dimension I want to highlight, even though we are hinting at the psychological trauma part. Atul Sen referred to him was made that he was the first person to have met Gumnami Baba in 1962. And after meeting him, he happened to write a letter to Prime Minister Nehru. And this letter we have obtained from the government of India under RTI. And so they were aware from that point in time, 62 onwards. And after meeting this person, he approached Mr. Nehru, even though this Gumnami Baba was not in favor of informing Mr. Nehru, at least because he did not like Nehru at all. But he wrote to Mr. Nehru, and this is what's coming on record, that according to Atul Sen, that he met Subhash Chandra Bose in 1962. He was very much alive. He is yet regarded, quote, he is yet regarded, according to him, he is yet regarded as enemy number of the allied powers, and there is a secret protocol that binds the government of India to deliver him to the allied justice it found alive. Now, this would ring a bell to you because I think almost all of us grown up hearing a conspiracy theory in this country that there was some kind of a protocol, when power was transferred to Indian hands in 1947, there were some secret deals. Because this is subject matter which is not discussed publicly in our country because it's a very shady thing. The whole transfer of power, which we call as Independence Day, that is called transfer of power in legal terms. And in that thing, there was some kind of a secret deal. And it's been alleged publicly and openly, and I'm sure all of you must be aware of it, that And part of the deal was that Subhash Chandra Bose would be, handed over to the British or probably tried as a war criminal. And this was stated, for example, by one of Netaji's, bodyguard, Usman Patel, before a commission of inquiry. That Indian top leaders were aware of it and they were complicit in that thing. So I do not know. This is a conspiracy theory. But now that we have come to this Gumnami Baba angle, and now that we have a report of a leading American handwriting expert, now that we can demonstrate that their DNA was fudged, now we have so much of data, we in fact can't even go through it. There's so many letters, so many details are available. So we have to look into it very, of course, this issue. So the problem now is that in last couple of years, documents have been declassified in the UK, and one thing has become clear, that we did have secret some secret issues were there. There were some secret discussions, or there were some secret clauses of the transfer of power. So only one clause is known today, and that clause is key under that secret arrangement. One officer of the British intelligence was set up in Delhi, and he stayed here until 1968. He was given title of the Security Liaison Officer, SLO, and Government of India, especially the Intelligence Bureau, dutifully supplied all intelligence to him. And this continued until 1968, while nobody was aware. There was never any mention by Government of India anywhere, no discussion, nowhere. And this was under this clause. Intelligence concerning Subhash Chandra Bose. In today's time, we hear about Facebook sharing your data with somebody else, and we become mad, raving mad, thinking why should my data be shared with companies? But here, intelligence about Subhash Chandra Bose and his family after independence was shared with the British intelligence. So this was happening. So what Gumnami Baba has been talking about, the war criminal angle and other issues, it cannot be, it's not exactly a fragment of information. There is something very hideous in this whole issue. Because we tried our best. When this issue was flagged in media 2-3 years back, we asked question, filed even RTA with the Government of India, seeking clarity what exactly you were doing with them. Please give us an answer. There is no answer from government side. They're completely shut up. So this is something which the country has to now find an answer. Maybe courts can compel Government of India. If you had secret dealings with the British, the transfer power, why did you not divulge them earlier? Because now that we do know they were secret deals, because British have agreed to at least one of them, which is the sharing of intelligence. So this is how the cases now. We were given about 1.5 hours to discuss, so I thought we cannot can't pack so many things because there's so many details. We do not know how to start, where to go. But this is how the case stands today. We have been able to put together everything in a book, and there's going to be a movie on this issue. Movies are the best ways to make any issue reach general public audience. We recently had the case of Tashkent Files, making Lal Bahadur issue very, very well known. And now this will be a book, movie which will be based on a book, will be completely focused on Gumnami Baba. The movie is due out in 2020 January, Subhash Bose's birth anniversary. And this, I believe, so we have couple of months before Gumnami Baba becomes a rage in this country. Because government can ignore books, people can ignore books, but they can't ignore movies. So maybe in time to come, we will have much more discussion on this issue than we have today. Thank you very much for your time.